All right, I do believe we are live. Welcome to another Sunday morning live stream. I hope that you can hear my voice. There's some music going on in the background, and hopefully you guys can hear that as well. I'm going to do a level check. We're going to go ahead and turn up the music in the background here. Just make sure that my levels are set okay today. Hopefully you guys can hear that music and also my voice. And hopefully we're not too loud. Hopefully we're not exploding anyone's phone speakers. What's happening? We got Sky Tortoise Ferryman in the chat. Hey, Peter. All right. Thanks for tuning in, HR Terror. All right. We've got 3 cameras today. And we're just going to chill out and make something inside of Beatmaker 3. Can you guys hear that okay? Are we doing okay level-wise? Level's okay, very good. Hey, thanks, Peter. Thanks, Nils. I really appreciate that, you guys. All right. Let's see here. Okay. I think what I'd like to do first today is I don't want to forget to announce that on next week's live stream, it's going to be a super special live stream, and I'm going to have a guest in the studio. My friend Trovarsi is going to be here, and we're going to be patching Eurorack together next Sunday at 10 a.m. It's going to be the first live stream that we've had a guest in the studio, so I'm really excited about that. Next Sunday, 10 a.m., Trovarsi will be here live, and we will be patching, so make sure you tune in for that. Alrighty. What we're listening to now is just a little groove that I've got going inside of Beatmaker 3. It's made up of a selection of, one-shot samples here that I've sequenced out. And I've got a melodic sound that I've created called Mountains of Tibet that I can just play over this. Sure, Eddie. Questions are going to be absolutely welcomed and encouraged today. So if anybody has any questions along the way, please feel free to drop those in the chat, and I will do my best to answer those. What we're going to do to start with today is we're going to go ahead and start a brand new session inside of Beatmaker 3. So we're going to go ahead and click the little, sandwich icon in the upper left here, and we're going to go new. I don't need to save anything there. We're just going to start a brand new project today. And what we've got today is we've got Beatmaker 3 on an iPad Pro 2019 edition here. I've also got the original Novation Circuit out today. Excuse me. And I've got the Novation Launch Key Mini MIDI controller out today as well. Over here in the back of the desk, I've got the Audiothingies MicroMonsta. Looks like my talk cam is shutting off again. What a bummer that is, and we will have to get that sorted again. I'm not sure why this is shutting off on me. I'm using a brand new camera today, guys, or at least I am trying to. I've had quite a bit of problems using my iPhones as webcams, and so I picked up a GoPro Black Hero 9 this week to hopefully try to avoid some of the problems that I've been having. But unfortunately, see if I can get this to pick up again here. Whoops, that's not what I need. I'm new to all of this, so please bear with me. It's shut off the second time this morning. For some reason, it's shutting off power like, every 20 minutes or something if I don't interact with it. But there we go. I was able to get it going again, which is already a bonus because for some of you who've been hanging out on these live streams where I've started out with maybe like 3 cameras and then ended up with just 1 camera by the end of the stream, that's been a little frustrating. So I'm obviously going to need to figure out, why the GoPro is kind of shutting off every now and again, but at least I'm able to get it back up and running right during the stream. So that is awesome. I'm using the HDMI output of this GoPro camera into like a capture device, and that's creating, I think, like a tiny delay between my voice and the video, and I hope that's not too noticeable or distracting. What's happening, Wall? What's happening, Grant? What's happening, Andy? What's happening, Eddie? Thanks for tuning in, everyone. So we're going to start today by sampling out of the Novation Circuit, one of my favorite bass sounds in the circuit, so that we can work with that inside of Beatmaker 3 today. Got a little bit more latency on this camera than the other ones, so sorry about that, guys. And just check in with the question in the chat real fast. Yeah, that really depends on the sample content themselves, Eddie, and what you're doing there. There's no way that I know of to do any sort of like really complicated crossfading between the sample layers inside of Beatmaker 3. That's more of a like something you might find in a desktop application like Contact or something, like the virtual instrument sampler from Native Instruments. I don't think you're going to be able to get, that level of detail on the layers inside of Beatmaker 3. You might be able to, and I could be wrong, but I'm not sure there 100%. I think you do have to ride an off-road bike to get one of these GoPros, and we might have to look into that at some point, Wall. I don't know. I didn't read the fine print. Okay. So let's go ahead and start here by, let me go ahead and get us in Beatmaker 3. And what we're going to do is we're going to go over to our arrangement view, our song arrangement view, and we're going to go ahead and create a brand new track today. We're just going to go create new track. I'm sorry, I want to make this a new audio track, so create new audio track. I'm going to go ahead and click on, whoops, I'm getting all over the place here, sorry about that. Yeah, that's what I want, Bank 1 Audio. And I just want to go into the Mixer tab now and turn that first track on the bottom here where it says Monitor. I want to turn that on, and that means that now we can hear the audio that's coming into that track once we assign it. I've got, I'm using, rather, let me change the cameras again. I'm using let's see if we probably can't see that out of the shot here. I'm using the Novation Audio Hub 2x4 audio interface today, and I've got the circuit plugged directly into that audio interface already. And so if we just long press on this tab inside of Beatmaker 3, we can select audio input, and I can select hardware input, and then I can select the Audio Hub 2x4. So now we're actually hearing the sounds that are coming, out of the Novation circuit here. And there it is. This is the bass that I want to sample today to get us started with. I don't really recommend to use one sample per key, Eddie. That just depends on how detailed you wanna be. If you want to use more layers, then by all means use more layers. But if your samples are sounding screwy, when you're getting really detailed on those velocities and whatnot, then it's time to either go back to the sample material or potentially use a more, robust sampler with more options inside of it. Okay, here, let me get a sip of coffee, guys. Flip the camera back over. Okay, we're going to go ahead and sample this bass sound. We're going to start here. Actually, okay, I've got that extra bank. Oh, that's fine. We're just going to start with bank 1, and we're going to go ahead and actually, what let's do maybe is set this up a little bit more purposefully from the beginning. Let me add like another bank here. And what I can do is maybe have like the drums like on bank 1 and maybe like some extra like, well, maybe we could just do, yeah, drums on bank A and then like basses on bank B. So we'll sample this one into bank B. And what we can do is if we go to the sample page, which is the second tab down here on the left in Beatmaker 3, we get the option to, start sampling external sources. So if we click the little record option here, okay, we can bring up the audio recording screen. And what I can do is select the recording source, where by default it doesn't know where you want to record the audio from, so we need to tell it. We're just going to click that, choose hardware input, and select the audio hub 2x4. And now it knows that whatever audio is coming into that audio interface, we want to record that. So if I just go over here, see if I can change the cameras again. If I just go over here to note mode, I believe that's like a C. Just move a couple things around here. Yeah. I think we're just going to sample this C note real quick. Get a little bit more volume here. And what I want to do is when I hit the actual sound inside of the Novation circuit, there's a tiny little like kind of pop on the attack of that sound, and I really want it to be soft. So I'm going to try to hit the note rather gently, and I'm actually going to just start recording when it's already playing. So this is what I want here, just this low. Just going to get a few seconds of this. Fantastic, and we'll go ahead and stop the recording here. All right. Now we can see the sample that we've recorded here. If I go into the edit screen and hit process and make this a little bit louder by hitting normalize, and let's say we want the maximum amplitude here to be like, oh, I don't know, maybe like -10. It's going to make it quite a bit louder for that bass sample. Right on. Okay, let's see here. Let me just hold on. Just zoom into the very beginning of this sample here. Yeah, and we're starting on the, yeah, it looks good. Okay, let's see here. So this is a C that we've sampled. And I've got, let's see here, I've got the MIDI controller here connected to Beatmaker 3 so that I can either use the pads in Beatmaker 3 to play the sounds today, and I can also kind of play the sounds via this keyboard over here today if we want to do it that way. One of the things that we're going to do right off the jump is make it so that it doesn't play back that bass sample in its entirety every time we trigger it. So we're going to take the layer trigger from a one shot to a hold, and this turns on our amplitude envelope. So now we have control over the attack and the decay and release of this sound. I like to bring the attack up just a little bit to soften the attack. I also like to bring some saturation on a really clean bass sound like this. I think we're going to start around maybe 33 for the saturation today. I want the bass to hold out a little bit, longer when I hit the note. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this release time up as well. Maybe a little more still. Fantastic. I think we're going to bring the saturation up on that just a little bit more as well. And maybe the gain up just another couple decibels. Now, if you're listening on your phone, you might not be hearing this sound at all at this time, but there we've got a bass that's now sampled into the project. So let's go ahead and save the project at this time. Let's go ahead and call this, oh, I don't know, YouTube Sunday Mayhem 222. Cool. Okay, so now anytime during the project, I can go ahead and just save, and we won't lose anything. So I'm not exactly sure what I want to create today, but I'm thinking that I might like to do something a little bit up tempo, but also sort of chilled, with like a lot of melodic, choppy elements. Like we might bring in a lot of chord samples and then kind of chop into those and make some sort of glitchy melodics and stuff. I'm going to check in with the chat real fast and make sure that I'm not missing anything. Yeah, editing samples, Skytaurus Ferryman, is definitely an art form in itself, and the zero crossing doesn't necessarily guarantee you no pops or clicks, and sometimes you'll need to finesse when you're doing that editing. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, what's happening? We got Tapsy in the chat. What's happening, Kristaps? All right. Listening on studio monitors. I got bass. Right on. Okay. All right, you guys. Let's see here. So we've got just a really basic bass sound added. So I think I want to do some, higher tempo stuff today. So we're going to bring this BPM up to, oh, I don't know. Let's try 165. And let's go back there and put a little bit of swing on this as well. Maybe 8% swing just for fun. And we're going to go ahead and save at this time. Now, for those of you who've been watching my Beatmaker 3 content for any amount of time, you might remember that I'm really about the one bank workflow, so that when we assign our macros and controllers to those sounds in that bank, that they're always going to be available. But what I figure we would try to do today is something a little bit different. And I figure we'll just try to do, individual tracks and then sketch this out inside of the arrangement screen in Beatmaker 3 using multiple tracks and not a one bank workflow. So hopefully that's going to work for us today. What I think we'll do is go ahead and start picking out some drum sounds to work with. And what we can do is we can go to the little menu here. We can go to our folder icon at the top, and we can go to, imports. Cool, this is where I've got the majority of my samples stored inside of Beatmaker 3. We can just go to some of my sample packs here, and here we go, bass music drums. Let's find a kick that we like here. Maybe find a kick that's already tuned to the root key of F, because that is my favorite key to work in, as most of you know. Let's listen to some of these kick drums. Kind of like that. I kind of like that vinyl-y one too. Okay, what I think we're going to do is use this one as our main kick drum. Cool, let's find a snare drum maybe that we can put with that. Got quite a bit of snare drums here. I kind of like the way that's sounding already. Come on, grab that, whoops. Grab this snare and drag it onto a pad here. Maybe if I can take some of the extra tail off of that kick drum and that snare drum. It's kind of a neat little start. Okay, let's go ahead and maybe try to see if we can't grab a hi-hat to start working with here so we can get some sort of a beat happening. Ooh, that's kind of a nice one. Let's start with that one, I think. And what I'll do, let's see here. Let's go into the arrangement view over, the third tab down. Let's grab our loop brace at the top here and make it a 4-bar loop. And then let's go ahead and on bank 1, which is going to be our drums, we're just going to double tap there to get a pattern started. Now, this is just a 1-bar pattern. So if we go into, I'm not exactly sure what they call that per se, but let's see here. If we're in our, arrangement view and we click up here where it says playing song, whatever track we have highlighted, it's going to show us the patterns that are available in that track. We've created a pattern here, but it's just a 1-bar pattern. So if I click the 3 dots where there's my, there's the GoPro turning off again. I'm going to have to figure that out. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to make this a 4-bar pattern. So I'm going to say duration, 4 bars, right? Now we can drag out our pattern, and you can see that it's a 4-bar pattern. If it's kind of grayed out, we just click the little play head over here, and that lets Beatmaker 3 know that we're working in the arrangement view rather than like a pattern view or a scenes view. So I've created just an empty 4-bar pattern there. If I press play and if we turn the metronome on, we can hear it start ticking away there in the background. All right, make sure that's loud enough for you guys. How's the levels? Are you guys able to hear my voice and the drums okay? Hey, what's happening, Samuel? Thanks for tuning in. I also do use a 1-bank workflow with the MPC Live often, John, but it's not like my only workflow. It's just I find it a really easy way to work in an environment where we have complete control over each individual sound. Like when we can EQ each sound individually, then I really find a 1-bank workflow is really useful. But today we're going to be doing just a really standard workflow. Okay, 2, 3, 4, and so now I guess I need to decide whether I want to do halftime at this tempo or full, tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3. Yeah, I guess we need to do full tempo or maybe a little slower. Just going to go ahead and put in a really simple drum and bass style kick and snare. 4, 2, 3, and. Turn the metronome off at this time. It's not turning off, so let me find out where it is. I don't remember by default. Is it here? There we go. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of adjusting on this hi-hat. I feel like it's going to be a little bit too loud and maybe a tiny little bit too much high-frequency content. Let's just do a tiny little bit of a low-pass filter on that. It's a little better off the jump. Let me go ahead and punch in a little bit of a hi-hat pattern. And 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, and. Cool. We can start doing some adjusting now. Come on, stop that. Cool. Let me bring the volume on this hi-hat down a little bit. Maybe a little bit more still. I also might want to tighten that hi-hat up a little bit. Just making it not quite as long. That sounds pretty cool. Maybe we'll give that its own space in the stereo field by panning it like just the tiniest amount left, like 5. All right. Now that we have a really simple drum beat happening, we can kind of just play that and, on the bass here. Let me go ahead and see what we can do here. I might be able to play some sort of a bass line. trying to figure out what I want to do here. I think I'm going to put us in a scale mode of minor pentatonic. Cool. I'm going to put in just a little bit of a bass line to get us going. And 4, 2, 3, 4. Whoops, no, I want, hold on. Let's fix that. I've got the wrong notes in there already, so let's go ahead and, actually what I should have done is created us an empty 4-bar loop to start working with. So let's go ahead and do that instead. On the second bank here, which is going to be our bass, we're going to go ahead and make sure that's highlighted, and if I click where it says playing song, I can get into our pattern view. Then when I click on the 3 dots there, I can go ahead and just make this, whoops, a 4-bar pattern, so that Beatmaker 3 knows that we're dealing with a 4-bar pattern at this time. Oh yeah, happy 4th of July, everyone. I'm not really big on that celebration, but definitely happy 4th of July, you guys. All right. That menu was originally called Pattern Helper. Yeah, they probably should have kept it called that. All right. So let's see here. Now we've got a 4-bar pattern for that on that bass track as well. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pop in a bass line. 2, 2, 3, and 3, 2, 2, 2, 2. Come on. 3, 2, 3, and 4, 2, 3, 4. All right. We're still getting the metronome playing. I'm trying to get that to stop. There we go. Take a look at the levels here. I think before we go any further, actually, we're going to go ahead and put a limiter on the master bus. That's going to help protect our ears, our headphones, and our speakers. So let's see here. If we just select the main out and we go to audio effects, I can now select an audio effect to put on there. We can choose, let's see here. I want to use an audio unit V3, and I just want to use the amazing noises limiter. If we bring this up here, I can bring the input gain up, maybe like, I don't know, a decibel. And I like to bring the saturation up on this the tiniest amount as well, maybe like plus 10. This is just going to keep anything from going over the 0 decibel limit on our master bus. Let me check our levels at this time. So our drums are a little bit louder than they should be, but I like the way that those are kind of mixed together. So what let's do is just bring this down a touch. Make sure that our drums are not clipping. I think we could probably bring our bass part down a little bit as well. And tuck that, sort of behind the drums so that we have a little bit more room to bring other elements in still. All right. Let's see here. If I switch cameras, I can show you guys that I'm also using Ableton Live here as a, whoops, a little bit of latency on this camera here, sorry guys, but I'm also using Ableton Live here as a visualizer, and I'm running the FabFilter Pro Q3 plugin, and also the Isotope Tonal Balance Control plugin, so that I can get sort of a visual representation of the frequencies that we're working with. Our start here is looking, pretty good for a starting point. Take a moment and try to get my camera back online here. And thank you for your patience, everyone. There, and then over here, and then here, and Then I'm back. Okay, boy, that is a pain, and I don't know why it's just shutting off. But we're back. Okay, trying to manage all of this tech at the same time is a little bit overwhelming. I know a lot of people stream like super, seamlessly, like the tech doesn't get to them. But I've got like a lot of, I'm surrounded by 3 cameras, and like every light I own is like turned on right now. It gets a little overwhelming for sure. So sorry about, the little glitches in this camera turning off. But I think that's kind of a neat little start. And what I want to do is maybe try to find like some chord samples that we can maybe like chop some little bits out of and sort of, layer in and amongst these drums and bass. So let's take a listen to what we've got here. And let's take a listen here. What we want to do, I think, is go ahead and go over to bank C, which we're going to put our chords on. We can go ahead and label these banks at this time, We can go bank 1, and we can go rename. We can just maybe caps lock this and call this drums. We can maybe do the same thing for bank 2, rename, caps lock, and call this bass. And then bank 3, we can maybe rename and caps lock and call this like chords. And then we can maybe save at this time. Fantastic. So I'm just going to play the groove, and we're going to go ahead and, see if I can maybe find some chords inside maybe my sample packs or something inside of what I've got inside of Beatmaker 3 that might just, slot into what we're working with or be inspiring, So let's see about scrolling through some samples. Figure out where I've got some chords that we can look for real fast here. And also just check something real quick over here. I believe I actually wrote this in the key of C minor. So let's take a look at what I've got here. Something maybe we can add in here, like some C minor chords. Minor 7th chords that I'm listening to here. Wonder if I have any just regular C minor chords in here that aren't 7ths. Got some samples here from the Virus Dark Star. A couple of chords at the bottom that are already C minor. Like that one. Okay, all these are working actually. Let's grab the ones that sound alright. Let's grab that one. Let's grab that one as well. And what let's do is go ahead and what I'd like to do is maybe just do some chopping on these so that it's not playing like that, that full ringing out like dub techno kind of chord, but maybe more like a glitched kind of chop. So if we just arbitrarily bring in these start and end points and create just like a little bit of a section, we're getting there. That's a little bit more what I'm looking for today. Maybe we'll go from a one-shot to hold mode so that we can turn on our amplitude envelope, and this gives us control over the attack of that sound. So we can make the attack a lot smoother if we want, or just take off that little click as we want to as well. Maybe bring the release down on this so it's just really nice and tight, Bringing the volume up on that, and I think we're going to saturate it a little bit as well. Ooh, hold on. I'm going to go ahead and record something in here with this pad. 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2. Here we go. there. Making this a little bit shorter still. Nice and tight here. Bringing the, let's see, the sustain down a little bit so it's more of a plucked sound. Just doing some finessing and fine-tuning on the settings. Maybe a little bit more saturation on this sound. And maybe we put a high-pass filter on this sound to get rid of any of those super low frequencies that are hanging out in the mix as well. Yeah, cool. Go to our mixer here. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of click on that chord that I would like to try to This doesn't seem to help anymore. Okay. What if we bring this in a little tighter? I'm still getting that little tiny click on a few of these notes. And what I think I'm going to do here is just, yeah, if I can get in here and maybe snap these to the grid a little bit more evenly. No, that's not going to help? All right. What we'll do, okay, I know what we can do maybe, is maybe we can take the grid size up here from a 1/16 fixed grid to a 1/32 grid, whoops, 1/32 notes grid, and that might allow me to shorten these clicking notes by just a tiny little amount. Let's see if that's getting rid of it. It's not, is it? It's just not getting rid of that little click. All right, well, we're going to sort it. These are the parts of the stream where things get a little weird, but I'm going to take the time to make sure we get rid of that click right at the beginning. That is like a more even spot, I guess. And that click seems to be a lot more gone now. I'll pull just a tiny bit more high frequency content out of this sound. There we go. Now it's really sitting over that bass sound and not really competing with it in the low frequency range. Just gonna take a second and check in with the chat here. Try to keep this camera going. Hey, thanks Luke. Thanks TFM. All right, thanks Andy. Are you guys able to hear my voice and the music okay now that we start adding some more elements? There's a lot of different levels that I need to keep checking to make sure that we're sending out the right level to the stream. Please just let me know if it gets too loud or if your phone starts, smoking from the volume or anything and I can turn it down. Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Luke. All right. I think what we need to do is go ahead and get a little bit of reverb and delay in our session at this time. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to put this on an auxiliary track so that we can have like a reverb send and a delay send. Let's go ahead and, so I'm going to select auxiliary 1. We're going to click down here at the bottom left where it says audio effect, and I'm going to put an EQ in first so that any signal we send to this reverb, we can remove the low frequency content from. I can put a low cut filter here and remove any of the frequencies beneath about 600 hertz to keep our reverb send nice and clean. And now we can choose what reverb we'd like to use today. Let's see. Let's go ahead and choose. Let's grab EOS 2 from Audio Damage. This is a nice reverb that I haven't used for quite some time. And When you're using a reverb on a send and you're not putting it directly on the track itself, you want to make sure that the reverb is set to 100% dry wet, 100% mix. That's only when you're using it as a send, okay? Let's go ahead and save at this time. And what I'm going to do is just mute the drums and the bass and just play that chord so I can really hear what we're sending to the reverb and what it's doing to the sound, you know? I don't want to, make a crazy reverbed out mix today, but I definitely want some verb in there. I think that might be all right. See if I can't mess with this bass a little. All right. Whoops. Got an extra little measure there. It thinks that our pattern here is actually 5 bars, but it's really a 4-bar pattern, so I'm going to just fix that. Also hit that play head again so that it knows that we're in the arrangement mode. That's all sounding pretty even there. Let me mute this track. I'm going to bring the bass down just a touch so that it's not fighting with the drums quite so much, but tucking it back in the mix the tiniest amount. And I think we're going to give this just a tiny little bit more volume still, and maybe pull off a tiny little bit more lows so that it's kind of sitting on top of the bass and the drums. Yeah. Okay, here's another. I loaded quite a few, chord stabs onto this track. So let's see if we can't mess with another one and get another sound in here. I'm going to do that same thing, right? We're just going to kind of make this big, full sample into more of like a small, little, tiny chop, right? Here we go. Ooh. I'm just going to hit record. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Gonna put a high pass filter on that new chord. Get rid of some low frequency content from that. And I think we'll go over to the mixer and put a little bit of. Whoops, that's not our track. That's just our listening track. Right, I see. We're on the whole bank for the chords. So yeah, okay, good deal. I'm not used to really working this way. We're not working in a one bank workflow today. I'm using, a separate track for each sound. So I'm needed to realize there that we have reverb going on all of the chords, not just the one chord. So I don't need to add reverb to our new chord. It's already on there by default, as everything on that track is being sent to the reverb. Fantastic. Now we've got 2 chord samples that are kind of playing off of each other. Let's go ahead and save at this time. That is a great question. The question is it better to use a zero crossing going down than up to remove clicks? That is a really great question. And to be honest with you, I think it just sort of depends on that sample. Sometimes you get lucky where it sounds really clean, where that 0 point is going up and then stops. And sometimes you get really lucky where it's going down and then stops. I find it, depending on the actual source material itself, and just kind of getting lucky sometimes. Sometimes when you've got it, perfectly lined up where you would think that you won't hear any clicks or pops, you might still hear those clicks and pops. So a lot of times it's just a little bit of extra finesse as well. That is a fantastic question. Let's see if maybe we can add a third chord stab in here, shall we? Actually, before we do that, I've got 2 different chords playing. So rather than have them both, being dead center in the mix, maybe we could do a little bit of stereo separation on these 2 sounds by panning our very first chord sound. And this is very subtle stuff, right? Very subtle. But I find that, these kinds of subtle things really add up to a well-polished mix in the end. So we're going to go ahead and pan that first chord sample just like 5 to the left. Now these go all the way from 0 to 100 on the panning, so 5% is really just nothing. We're just taking it and just eking it off of that center point a tiny little bit so that we have a little bit of, each sound can kind of have its own space in the mix instead of having to fight for that center frequency location. Okay, we can go ahead and save there and see about maybe getting a third one of these chords in. All right. So this is a really long and evolving chord, and we're just going to try to turn it into a really quick chop. I'm going to go ahead and hit record at this time. Now what we can do as we start adding in more, I'm going to give this one its own space in the mix too by panning it 10 to the right. I'm also going to saturate it a tiny little bit, maybe 10%. Let's also put a high pass filter on this one to get rid of any, low frequency content that may be competing with our drums or our bass. I'm going to just switch back to the talk cam so I can try to keep it from shutting off and just check in with the chat real fast. Just make sure, this is a great point from Samuel here, just make sure the zero crossing matches between the start and the end, especially when looping. Yeah, that's a really interesting point. So for instance, if you're looping and we're starting up, then we would want our, the endpoint potentially to be coming up to meet that. I don't know if I'm doing that right, but that's a really great point, Samuel. One of the things that we can do now that we're starting to kind of get some of these chord stabs playing against each other is we can open up the actual chord pattern and, make sure that we're not having anything of those chords per se playing directly over one another. So if I just open up the chords here and take a look at these parts, and for instance right here we can see that there's a chord playing on top of a chord, so an option might be to take this note here and then move it in between or even at the end of that bar. If I keep scrolling here, and I'm just trying to make sure that we don't have a lot of overlapping notes here, so I might just bring that down. These here are playing on the same note. Whoops, I just added something, so we'll undo that. I just want to move this note, I don't know, maybe there, so that it's not conflicting with the other notes that are playing, and that each of our chop is kind of playing in between the other chops. Let's see how that sounds. I think we have maybe one too many chop. I'm going to find out where that is. Yeah, it's that one. Get rid of that one. C, is it this one here, I believe? Yeah, C minor, 1, this one. This one here, there's a little bit too much high frequency content for my taste when this one plays. So we've already used the filter here that's built in, but what we can do is go to the layer effects tab. This gives us the option to add some more layer effects, and if I just press the add button here, we can go ahead and choose another filter, and I can use this one to remove some of the high frequency content here from this sound, and I just want it to be the absolute, very highest frequency on that. I'm going to go to the mixer and mute the drums and the bass, so we're just hearing the chords. And I'm just want to decide how much of this high frequency content I want to pull off of this sound. All right. So now we've got kind of, really simple drums, really simple bass that's kind of just floating underneath those drums. We've got kind of a, chord stabby part with these chopped up tight chords now that are sort of riding over the top of that. All right. what I want to do is take a look at the frequency content of our chords track in a little bit more detail. So we're going to make sure that that's highlighted, and we're going to go over here to audio effects on that chords track. I want to put an EQ on that. Before I do, I'm just going to save. And we're just going to go add audio effect, right? I want to add an audio unit. I want to add an audio unit V3. And what I want to add is the Pro Q3 EQ at this time. So we're going to scroll down and find the FabFilter Pro Q3 EQ. We're going to load it onto this track here. And I can just bring that up here. And there's a little button over here on the right that allows you to kind of make that full screen. And now we're just seeing the chord frequencies that are coming through here. I'm going to use my Apple Pencil to do this and make sure that it's connected to the iPad here. If I click on the presets, I can get to a default setting that I use, which is just, cutting off the very, very low frequencies and very, very high frequencies. I find this to be a great starting point preset for working with here. Let's go ahead and take a look at these frequencies. If I hold on the screen, it sort of freezes, those frequencies into a visual representation that we can see a little bit better. I'm going to pull some more low frequency content off the bottom of those chords. Now we're just working with the chords alone, so anything I do here just is affecting that one track only, not the drums, not the bass. I'm going to go ahead and pull that down a tiny little bit there, and this too. We've also got some extraneous high frequency content on this track that doesn't really need to be here. Whoops, that's not going the right way at all. Whoops. Whoop, whoop, whoop. In fact, come on, I think that's a mistake on that one. How do we get rid of that? There we go. Cool. So let's just play this again. I'm going to get rid of this really high frequency content on the right there. Yeah, taming that quite a bit. This is giving this sound a little bit more room in the mix to sit and not have to fight with the other sounds quite as much. Yeah, that's sounding quite a bit nicer and more smooth. Now what I think I'd like to do is just put a really gentle compressor after those chords so that we can kind of start gluing them together as more of one cohesive track instead of three individual sounds. Let's just go ahead and save before we do that, and then we'll go to add audio effect. I'm just going to use, I think, the built-in compressor for this because it works pretty well for what it needs to do. We're just going to leave it in its compressor mode here, and I like to compress at a ratio of 4:1 most of the time, so we're going to go ahead and set that. And let's see how this sounds. I'm going to put the threshold up to all the way so that I can adjust that manually. Okay. What I want is I want to just see that the compressor is starting to work. So there's a fine line between -18, where it's not really catching, -18 on the decibels. It's not really catching any of those, transients on the chords there. But if I bring it down to a threshold of -19, we can really see that it's starting to grab and compress those chords. And there we have some gain reduction occurring in the sound there. That's sounding really nice. I'm going to bring the makeup gain on this up a couple decibels. Yeah. I want to bring the volume on this chord down just a little bit. So we'll do that. And also, basically what I'm doing is we have 3 chords that are playing now, and I'm considering this chord here to be like our main chord, our main, pattern, and the other ones I'm considering to be kind of like accents per se. And we want the accents to not be as loud as like the main chord, if you get my drift. Yeah, the layer effects are a hidden gem for sure, Samuel. Absolutely. All right. What's happening, Jim? What's happening, David? What's happening, Ricardo? All right, thanks for tuning in. Hey, Leon, what's happening? All right, thanks for hanging out, everyone. I appreciate you being here. Just a tiny little bit more level on our limiter on our master bus there. Just a tiny little bit more EQ, whoops, on these pads. All right. I think what we're going to do now is we'll go ahead and try to hook up another synthesizer. What I've done today is I've got the Novation Circuit out, and we started by sampling a bass sound from this. But I've also got out today the MicroMonsta from Audiothingies. And what I'd like to do, I'll just leave that powered on, I guess. Sorry about the clicking there. So I'm going to move this guy over. And we're going to bring the MicroMonsta in now. And the MicroMonsta is already routed to the audio interface so that I've already got MIDI coming into the MicroMonsta via USB here. Whoops. Left and right. Cool. And what we can do is we can maybe see about trying to find a sound in the MicroMonsta that might sound good with what we're creating today, and then be able to record that in. Let's see here. We're going to want I'm going to need to add a new bank at this time, and we can go into the MIDI setup of this bank and tell the output that it should go. I don't know if you guys can see. Oh, I'm on the wrong camera. Still on the wrong camera. Here we go. So let me go back then so you guys can see exactly what I did there. I've created a brand new track. Okay, this is track, a new bank rather. This is bank D. And if I just, click the little options here, we can go to MIDI setup. Now, I just want to tell Beatmaker 3 that this bank should go and be routed to the MicroMonsta. So if I click here, I can see that it's actually recognizing the MicroMonsta already over USB. And the MicroMonsta is set to channel 16. So I'm going to go ahead and set this to channel 16 at this time. Now, let's see here. We have Beatmaker 3 set up, so it's whatever bank is selected is the bank that see if I can change the camera so you can see here, is the bank that we're playing with our MIDI controller. So if I select bank 1, I'm now playing these drums. If I select bank 2, now I'm playing our bass, right? If I select bank 3, now I'm triggering one of those pads. And now if I select bank D, I should be able to start sending MIDI to the MicroMonsta. It's not working just yet. Let's find out why. MIDI setup. Let's see if we can do it from here. I think what I need to do is to load a sample onto one of these pads to activate the pad before this will actually work. And it'll help us if we can get just a really short sound for that. So maybe like just a hi-hat chop or something like that. Tiny little sound. And what I can do is I can bring the volume completely down on this sound so that we're just actually now sending MIDI out to the MicroMonsta. And let's see, if I put this into keys mode, we are actually playing the MicroMonsta now using Beatmaker 3. And I'm not locked into a scale here, well, so I should be. I'm going to put that into the minor pentatonic scale. Now we're hearing the MicroMonsta coming in to Beatmaker 3 on the track that we set up in the beginning, this audio track here. So here's our level. Okay. And what I'm going to do maybe is just, oh, I don't know, let's just sort of play the groove, and then maybe we'll just scroll through some presets over here on the MicroMonsta and see if anything, you know, starts to sound interesting with what we're already working with. All right, so here's our groove. We're writing in the key of C minor. And what we can do is maybe go to the load screen, right? Let's see here. I'm not looking for anything specific, like I don't have a sound that I'm specifically searching for. Oftentimes when I'm, you know, writing grooves, I'll just scroll through presets in a synthesizer and see if anything, you know, starts to fit with what I'm writing, or maybe gives me some inspiration towards, you know, something that we're working with here. So I'm going to go ahead and just keep scrolling through these presets real casually here and see if anything starts to jump out at us. It's like an arpeggio preset. Not really what I'm looking for, but it's cool. Kind of a nice sound. Not quite the right sound though. Cool, but really not what we're looking for. Well, hold on, that's kind of cool. I'm not sure that's really what we're looking for today, though. Still very cool, though. So, you guys can see that I'm playing the MicroMonsta using Beatmaker 3 here, right? This is super convenient. Really big, robust one here. A nice even pad might be nice, maybe. Ooh, this is a cool lead sound. Hold the phone. Quite the right sound. We're going to keep scrolling. Not quite right yet. Ooh, hold on. Not quite right yet either. Just more chords that we already have some of, kind of. We don't really need more. for scrolling for sounds with me is a lot of times, a lot of times people find this sort of part of writing super tedious. I don't necessarily always just hear the exact sound that I want to use in my head, if you know what I mean, and then just jump in there and create it. A lot of times I'll just sort of, let the music, take on a life of its own and just sort of see if anything, jumps out. Let's keep going here. Yeah, it takes some time for sure, Andy. That's why I've got this other controller out today as well, so that if I need to kind of use that as a backup. This is really difficult for me sometimes as well, but I can put it into a scale mode, and then it will allow me to sort of not hit wrong notes, which can kind of be useful sometimes as well. Let's go back over to this camera while I keep scrolling. Sorry that the light on the MicroMonsta is so bright there. But let's see what we can come up with here. Yeah, I don't want to just dub techno because that's, really easy. So let's try to do something different. Not quite right yet either. Come on. Just don't really know what I'm looking for, and so it's not coming out so far today. Just kind of scrolling here. Thanks for your patience, everyone. Ooh. It's still not quite what I'm after, really. That's what I want right there. That's the one. It's called Bright Pad, and that's definitely something that's sort of slotting into the kind of vibe that I'm looking for here. All right, what let's do is go ahead and let's see. Just hit record for now, and 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4. Make it longer, actually. Whoops. Actually, let's go ahead and just get that. So what I want to do is I want to get that sound only, and I think how we can do that is, let's see here, I want to go to the mixer tab, and I just want to mute the other tracks so that it's just bank D playing. Right on. And if I'm not mistaken, I can go, let's see here, hit the little options in the upper left corner here, go to export, go to audio export. This is just a test. I'm not sure if this is going to work right because I didn't record this in. I'm not exactly sure. This isn't quite my normal workflow, so I just want to make sure that I'm doing it right. Bar 1 for 4 bars, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that looks good. And start the export, and export available in the blah, blah, blah directory. Okay, fantastic. So let's see here. If I add a new bank now for me to drop that sample onto that we've just created, now I can potentially go find that sample of just that chord. Let's see here. YouTube Sunday Mayhem, and here, no sample there. Okay, so it recorded what? Just blank audio. Let's just see. Yeah, just recorded blank audio because I didn't do it right. Okay, no worries. We'll go ahead and do it the way that I would have, normally done that, which is first thing we'll do is just clear this pad out. Okay, cool. So we've inserted a new bank that we want to go ahead and just record this sound onto now. And let's see. If I go to the where is that here? Maybe it's in the mixer tab rather. Bank E1. If we, oh, I'm sorry, I'm still doing that wrong. What we want to do rather is go to our new bank, go to the pad, and just record this sound in. So if we go to record, we can bring our audio recorder page up. It's already set to the recording source of the Audio Hub 2x4, so we should be getting level there. And let's see, I'm not getting anything to it from the keys. Oh my goodness. Maybe I need to make this bank talk to the MicroMonsta first. I think this might be wrong as well, but we'll find out. It seems to be not right as well. Okay, so this is one of the anomalies that I've experienced with Beatmaker 3 in the past, where I get a little bit confused as to how I want to do this. I'm a little confused as to why I'm not getting my MIDI where I want it. Let's see here. If I'm on this bank, though, we do get the MIDI. This is so confusing. So if I take this off of keys, am I still getting MIDI? Yes, I am. But if I go to this pad and try to record it, say, onto that pad, do I still have MIDI? No, I do not. See, so that's an anomaly that makes it very difficult to do what I'm trying to do. I was able to do it in the beginning. How did I? By recording the... Oh, because I didn't use the keys over here to play the bass, rather, but we played the bass with my finger. Okay. Well, this is I want to solve this for sure, right? So, let's see. The part that I want is really being triggered on... That's triggering it. So if we just go here, this might be the answer. Yeah, I just need to have it playing in the background, and now I'm getting a level here on this track. Pretty hot level, actually. So I'm going to bring the volume down on the MicroMonsta just a little. All right, and now I'm just going to hit start, and we're going to get two full run-throughs of that hit there. Let that tail all the way down and just hit recording to stop it. Fantastic. Alrighty, now we've got that sound recorded, and what I can do is I can just go in here and select that really clean second version of the sound. We can go into the edit menu, I can process, and I can say normalize and make this sound, I don't know, like -6 in volume, so it's a little bit louder as well. We can zoom right in here. I'm not going to trim that extra thing out today and resave. We're just going to kind of leave that as it is. Why is it holding that last one? Is it because it's playing it twice now, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing wrong here. I think it's because of the MIDI. Is that what it is? If I turn the MIDI off, is that what it is or not? Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we can go ahead and put this into hold mode so that it's not going to play the entire sample every time we hit the note. And let's see about getting this into our mix, shall we? If I go back and unmute our tracks here. All right, that's better. Let's go in here. chord and put a little part in. 4, 2, 3, and what? No play? Let's find out why not. Maybe I didn't put a part in. Let's see here. We'll fix that. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and erase this and put it in again. We're going to grab the selection tool on the bottom left and select the notes that I've got here. I didn't make a pattern first and put it in, which I probably should have done. So now it thinks this is 5 bars. We'll go ahead and just make that 4 bars so that it knows we're dealing with a 4-bar pattern. And now if we just go back into song mode here and get this pattern even with the rest of our patterns and press the little playhead, it knows that we're in song arrangement mode. Cool. Now I can go ahead and hit record again. Oh my goodness, it did it again, didn't it? It sure did. It put that little thing at the end, and it thinks that I wanted it to be longer, but I don't. I want this note to be over here at the beginning, so we'll just slide that in. That's just a little anomaly there, but we still got a 4-bar pattern, so I can slide this loop back over to 4 bars. We can go up here, and we can make sure that it's pattern 2 now is 4 bars, and there is no pattern 1, so I can go ahead and delete that. There we go. Good deal. And now, whoops, now we're back to where it should be. Yeah, cool. I want this to sustain, not sustain, I want this to ring out a little bit more when we let go of the key. So I'm going to bring the release time up on that. Better. Now if we go back into the mixer tab, I've already got a reverb send on send 1, so we can send some reverb to this new sound. Exactly, that's much better. It needs to come down in the mix a little bit. And also I want to put a high pass filter on it. Alright, what let's go ahead and do is make a variation on this particular sound. We can do this in a really simple manner by just going copy and let's see here. Then we'll just put it on a different pad here and we'll go down and press paste. What we can do here is we can do that same kind of thing that we did with a lot of the other pad sounds. And we can make this into just kind of a little tiny chop sound rather than a sustained sound. Yeah, right on. Cool. I'm going to bring the attack up to just like a 1, so we kind of just sort of soften that at the very, very beginning, just like 1 millisecond of attack here. Come on. Cool, that sounds a lot better. Bring the volume up on this a little bit more and play our groove. Cool, and now I can get in on the actual part here. We're getting there. I want this one to, I want this one to be really tight when we hit it. So I'm just pulling the release time down on this one to very low, maybe like 10 seconds or less even. So we get this tiny hit on this one now, right? So maybe bring the saturation on that sound up just a little bit. So it's a little bit more robust and louder. The saturation is adding like harmonic distortion. So we're adding a little bit more frequency content to that sound. A little bit lower in volume still, and shorter. Ooh, that's better. Go ahead and pan that sound a tiny bit, maybe to the left as well, so that it has its own sort of space in the stereo field. Save at this time as well. Yeah. Cool. We're getting not quite what I want here. Still kind of cutting a little bit there. So if we go into this pattern, maybe if we put the grid to 30-second notes and shorten these. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Exactly that. So now, that's another anomaly that I wanted to bring up real quick here. If we solo just this track, for some reason we no longer hear the reverb that's coming through on that track. Here it's really dry. But a way to get around that is instead of soloing that track, we can just mute the other tracks. And when we do that, now when we play our remaining track, we still hear the reverb on those sounds. Oops, I muted one too many. But see how we're still hearing the reverb on that now? I'm not sure why we don't hear the reverb in solo mode, but it's just one of those things. I think we'll go ahead and take a look at the EQ on that brand new sound real fast. We're just going to go to Audio Effects and Audio Unit V3 and scroll down so we can put a Fab Filter Pro Q3 on this sound. We're going to go Load, and we're going to take a look at that at this time here. Remove some low frequencies there. Whoops, I don't want to do that. Better. So I removed a little bit of the low mids from that sound that were conflicting with a few of our other sounds there. And we can bring this sound down in the mix a tiny little bit at this time as well and save what we've got so far. I'm going to check in with the chat, make sure that I'm not missing any questions. I appreciate you guys tuning in and hanging out with me on these streams. Seems like I've been able to keep the GoPro from shutting off. By just casually every few minutes when I'm on the other camera, I'm just kind of touching the screen on this GoPro. I don't know whether I need to touch the front of it or touch the back of it or what I need to do, but it was shutting off in the beginning of the stream as it was like not being interacted with, and I've managed to keep it on now for a good, I don't know, 60 minutes or so by just when I am on this camera per se. I'm just sort of every now and again touching that GoPro. So for those of you who might be tuning in late, working with a brand new camera today, I've been doing a lot of using the iPhones as webcams in here, but as some of you may know, that hasn't been real consistent for me, and we've ended a lot of these streams with just like down to one camera. So hopefully this new GoPro 7 will be a little bit more reliable. I did have some problems in the beginning with it turning off, but it seems like I'm getting that sorted now. I think the picture that we're getting from the GoPro is quite a lot nicer than what I've been able to achieve on some of these past streams. I think there might be a tiny little bit of latency coming through between like me speaking and when it's coming through on the stream. I'll see how bad that is when we watch this back. Hey, what's happening, Colin? Thanks for tuning in. What's happening, Kevin? We got PDP in the chat. We got David English in the chat. All right. We got Audible Video in the chat. Thanks for hanging out with me, you guys. So today we're just really casually working with Beatmaker 3. I sampled a bass sound out of the Novation Circuit, and we started putting a little groove together. We added some drums from my bass music drums sample pack. We added some chords from one of my sample packs, and then we scrolled through a whole bunch of presets in the Audiothingies MicroMonsta, and we added another kind of pad sound by recording that in as well. We worked through a few different anomalies along the way to make that happen, but we were able to get that going. I'm just going to check in with the chat and make sure that I'm not missing any questions. Hey, Jim, does that Canon MK2, does that do live streaming? I have a Canon something 50, but I think you were able to finally download an app that turned that into a webcam. But there's some limitations because mine is a little bit older. All right, let's see about adding something else to this section at this session at this time, you guys. Let's see here what we've got so far. Just a really basic little groove here. Just a little 4-bar groove. What let's do is make this an 8-bar groove at this time by going ahead and just repeating all of these patterns. We're going to tap the ones we want, and we're just going to choose, all of them. We're just going to choose repeat, right? Then I can drag the loop brace out to the end here, and now we've got like an 8-bar loop instead of a 4-bar loop. And what might be neat is to go ahead and go into the select tool, I believe, and we can select all of the chords part here. And down at the bottom now, I can choose this merge command. And it's taken there was 2 different pattern 1s, or 2 different pattern 2s rather. And now it is combined those just on that one track alone into a 1 8-bar pattern. So I can even, select that and then go up to the patterns section. I can delete that 4-bar pattern that we no longer need. And we're just working with this 8-bar pattern now. And let's see, so if we're, all I want to do is, I just want to delete those first da-da-da-das so that we get that on the second 8 bars and, make it more of an 8-bar pattern than just a repeating 4-bar pattern. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of those at this time. And now if we go back into our song view, whoops, and press the little play button so that Beatmaker 3 knows that we're working in this menu. Yeah, now we only get that da-da-da-da at the end of 8 bars. Nice. So a little bit more of a turnaround there. What I'm going to do, though, maybe take a look at where these chords are falling on our chord track here. So we've got like 3.5, so 3 point, whatever, so I could do one. Let's see about that. Can I, let's see here, get back to song mode and go over here, and then in here, and it was 3.2, so if it's, I'm losing my math already. I'm just trying to figure out what notes were available for me to maybe put something else in here. Go back into those 16ths and go 1. Whoops, maybe go, whoops. Maybe those. Ooh, that's a lot better price than what I paid for my Canon, Jim. $1,000 with a basic lens. I got like a set for mine. I think I can't remember the number. I want to say EOS 50. I don't think that's right though. But like I just really did not gel with that Canon as much as I, gelled with the cameras that are built into the iPhones and whatnot. So I just never really, got into using it the way that it wanted to be used. And now that I've been able to shoot like 4K video with my iPhones and whatnot, I just haven't gone back to like trying to learn the Canon. But that it sounds like a pretty good price to me. Yeah, there we go. So basically what I was doing there, guys, is just checking out the back to song mode here. The pattern for our most of our chords, right, are on this track here, and I was just seeing at the end of that pattern where I had an empty spot that I could put some extra notes in. And so what I did is I've put those extra notes on our new track where we sampled the chord from the MicroMonsta. I put that in this open space here where no chords on this track are hitting. So now we have kind of a, more robust kind of back and forth chord pattern happening. Cool. What let's do, I think, at this time is go ahead and copy all of this into out one more time. So we've got 16 bars to work with here on the screen, and we'll start doing some variations and back and forth. For instance, I definitely wanted the drums, so we're going to go repeat and repeat. Looks like I had two things highlighted there. That's fine. We'll go ahead and delete, not delete, but just remove those. I definitely want the bass to keep going, right? So let's keep that going. And let's just extend this loop brace out. Whoops. Let's just extend that loop brace out so that it's going to play a full 16 bars and loop here. Now, we don't really get to see the names of our tracks sometimes, and that's kind of a bummer. There's a way to close this tab out, if I can remember, but I probably won't be able to. Let's see. Is it this one here? Somewhere in here is a way to make this smaller. Unfortunately, I can't this very second remember what that is. But I think we'll be okay. We do get the names of the tracks here, drums, bass, chords. Bank D hasn't been labeled, so let's go ahead and do that now. This was just actually what we used to write our new pattern. We don't actually need this here currently. That was just like a MIDI track, so we'll delete those patterns in the timeline. And then here, this is the, go ahead and long press on the E there and choose rename. This is our MicroMonsta chord stabs. Okay, so we've got that labeled as well. And now all of our tracks are labeled. This is labeled at D1 as well because it might get confusing later on down the line. That's just a MIDI track, and we'll save at this time. All right, fantastic. Okay, so now it might be nice for some variations and whatnot. And to work on just this section, we can, come on now, we can take the loop brace and we can make it so that it's not, going to play that first section anymore, but just loop these. We can maybe take this chord part, right, and maybe we can, I don't want to repeat the same pattern, but I want to choose duplicate this time instead. And what, whoops, and what I'm going to undo actually because I believe I had too many parts highlighted there. I just want the one pattern to be selected, and I don't want to repeat that same pattern, but I want to choose duplicate, and that creates a brand new pattern. So this is pattern 1 on the left, but now pattern 2 on the right. So when I start messing with pattern 2, it's not going to, mess with what we've already created in pattern 1. This is an 8-bar loop here, and pattern 2 is only 4 bars, so we do need to repeat that loop so that it plays 2 times. Now, if I go in here to edit the pattern, this is our, by default, this is like our main chord part that we put in, and we could create some variations of this here. Maybe like an easy way to do this would be to do it by hand. So we could take all of these notes, I guess, and just delete them. We could go back into, whoops, our menu here. Maybe, yeah, so now the whole thing is empty. And if I press play, and we're back to our chords here. Okay, so this one here we didn't actually chop into. Let's go ahead and do that at this time. Let's create a little chop here. I'm doing these really randomly today. Do a little shorter still. Cool. Let's go ahead and just maybe leave it like that. Actually, I'll put a high pass filter on it as well, just a really gentle. Cool. Maybe just a little bit of saturation on that one as well. A little goes a long way, so 10% will probably get us there. So let's go ahead and record at this time. What I'm trying to do here is just to create kind of a variation of our chords part so that it's kind of go back and forth between two different variations of a chord part. That's an interesting idea. Yep. I like that. So we'll now have kind of a back and forth between those two chords. Pop. Let's put that in. We have this one, chord sample that's not being used yet. Let's go ahead and save. Whoops, save. So an easy way to kind of get this chord into the variation of this pattern would be just to open this up, play it, and then start adding some notes, where there aren't other notes already playing. So we could, for instance, go back to 16th notes here. I don't know, let's put some in. Yeah. Yeah. There we go. All right, so what we've got here in the save, we've got two different variations of some chords happening here. So that in the first 8 bars, we're going to hear the pattern 1 that we created. In the second 8 bars, we've got a pattern 2. So those chords will sort of change in vibe. We've also got the MicroMonsta chord bass, the chord stabs rather, not bass stabs, but the chord stabs just happening on one of these sections of 8 bars. We might want to do a variation on that for the second, or just leave it for the first. We'll need to hear what that sounds like. That's what I thought too, Sky Tortoise Ferryman. But see, I'm clicking on it. Oh, is it this one? Oh, man. Okay, hold the phone, everyone. We have got Sky Tortoise Ferryman slam dunking it for the win. Okay, so here we are in the song arrangement view. And if we want to get this to close, I was clicking this button for some reason. But what we want is this. It's this right here. Thank you, Sky Tortoise Ferryman. And we can get that closed, get a much better view on the screen. Up, there goes my GoPro again, because I guess I wasn't touching it enough. I'll get that sorted. But that's how we do it. It's this little button right here to get that into kind of a full screen mode, or in the mode where we can see the names. Boom. Thank you, Sky Tortoise Ferryman. All right. While I'm trying to get that going, hey, thanks, Jim. I really appreciate that. I'm going to see if I can get this GoPro started up again. And which means I need to, what does that mean? I have to go back here again. Yeah, sorry, guys. It's just going to take 1 second here. All right, and I believe it's this mode to get over here. Right, okay, and then this one more. Okay, and then we're back. Okay, fantastic. All right, so at least I know that I can get this back if it shuts off. I need to just remember to just keep interacting with the screen a little bit, I suppose, as I'm doing the other stuff as well. No worries. Okay. So now let's take a listen to what we've got here. There we go. Unhighlight that pattern, and we can hear the difference now in the chords. Absolutely. This is sounding really great. What let's do is this. Let's start actually working on like more of a song type of an arrangement. And typically when I'm doing like song arrangements, I'm going to want my patterns to be like in sections of 16 rather than like sections of 8. So what we're going to do is we're going to start grabbing these. Yeah, we're going to put these another. Whoops, we're going to grab all of these second patterns here, and we're just going to move them all, whoops, just going to move them all over. Come on now, a little bit. You can see that I'm having some anomalies with my selection ability here, but if you go slow, it's really not that big of a deal. Okay, cool. I think I did that wrong anyway. I sure did. We needed to go back one more to the left. Oh my goodness, how embarrassing. All right, and I'm still having that weird grab anomaly. That's all right. Oh boy. Okay, so what's happening is it's trying to highlight 2, and I need to really kind of select off of that first one when I'm grabbing the next one. There we go. And now what we can do is go ahead and go see repeat and repeat, and then repeat. Whoops, I did that wrong. Grab just that one and repeat it twice. Grab just that one and repeat it twice. Then we can grab just this one and repeat it twice. Fantastic. We're getting there, and thank you for your patience. 2 repeats on that one, and 2 repeats on that one, and then 2 repeats on this one. Now what we've got is we've got a 32 bar loop here, and each section kind of is a section of 16. Let's go ahead and save at this time because we've done quite a bit of changes. I think what we'll do is maybe add a crash symbol at this time so we can give like the downbeat of our sections a little bit more of an impact per se. So if I highlight the drums, I'll just pick a pad by default. We're going to use the little hamburger option icon here to get us into the sample window. Let's see, I've got imports, and we've got Dean's effect sounds. Should be what I need in here. Yeah, cool. Noise burst. We're going to go ahead and just grab this and use it as a crash symbol. Just going to drag it onto a pad here. By default, I'm going to put a bit of a high pass filter on that. So we're getting rid of any of the frequencies below about 1,000 hertz. So it's just that nice kind of impacty sound here. Bring that down in the mix a little and maybe pan that a little tiny bit, like 10% to the right, to give it its own stereo space in the mix. Now if we go back here to our song view, what I want to do is I need to create, I basically have one pattern going the entire time for the drums, right? And it might be a little bit easier if we had, some variations and whatnot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab pattern 1, and instead of just repeating it, I'm going to go duplicate and mix that a pattern 2. I don't know why I put that one way out there, but we're going to remove that one. And now I've got a pattern 2. Fantastic. We're going to go ahead and remove that, and we're going to remove that. We're going to repeat that pattern 2. So I've got 2 of them. I'm going to highlight this one and put it in the first. Highlight this one. Whoops. Highlight this one only and put it in the second. So now on like the first downbeat and on downbeat 17, we've got that second pattern. And if we see here, here's that noise impact burst. So I can just put that in on the downbeat. I can do the same thing. Actually, you would have put it in already because those are the same pattern. So now on the downbeat of every 16 bars, we'll have a little bit of a crash sound. We can adjust that in the mix if we need to. not know that, I'm going to stop, and I really want everyone to know that as well. This one I'm getting from Sky Tortoise Ferryman, guys, allows it to follow. So if we've got a lot of stuff programmed out, and we've got maybe several minutes of the song programmed out, if we have this button here highlighted, it's going to follow along, meaning the screen is going to move along with us as Beatmaker 3 plays the track, whereas right now we don't have that selected. So the screen is going to stay put, even if, for instance, even if the playhead goes off the screen, our screen is going to stay put. But if we click the follow icon, then wherever the cursor goes, the screen is going to move along with it. That's really helpful as you're writing a longer and longer song in the arrangement view. I really appreciate that tip. Thank you very much, Sky Tortoise Ferryman. A lot of the stuff in this app is like so detailed that if I don't use it for a month or two, like I might forget some of those, you know, tiny little details, you guys. But that's a really good one, and thank you very much for that. So now we've got that little bit of a crash there, and we have kind of a transition here now on, you know, bar 17. And what I think we'll do is go ahead and create a little bit of a turnaround variation in the drums between these two sort of pattern variations. What we can do is we can create a pattern 3 now to work with on the drums. I can select like just the one pattern, and we can choose duplicate, and that's created a brand new pattern now, pattern 3. So I can select just the one I want to delete, and I can remove that. Now I can take our brand new pattern, and I can put pattern 3 in that slot. We can even make it a little bit more obvious to ourselves, like when we load this up later, like what some of these patterns are. I can even, you know, load up our pattern 3 here and just rename this one and go drum fill at end, right? So now we just know that, you know, this pattern here has a drum fill at the end, and it says that on the screen. Probably can't see that on the live stream, but now we can just go into this pattern here. This is our kick drum, this is our snare drum, and then we've got some hi-hats and whatnot. So if I want to make a turnaround at the end of it, maybe what we'll do actually is go back to the song mode and use our loop brace at the top to loop just these 4 bars that I'm working on, because the brace at the top is going to allow me to just hear these 4 bars now. Okay, so if I double click into this pattern, cool, this is what I want to do. Because that's not my snare. There we go. Yeah, put a couple more snares in there. And so basically what we're doing here is just kind of creating a turnaround. So before we change, you know, from this sort of whoops, I did that wrong. Before we change from, you know, our vibe on this section and go into the different vibe on this section, the drums will do a little bit of a, you know, alert the listener that something is about to change. Yeah, right on. So what let's go ahead and do is, what am I, pattern 2, drum fill at end. Why is it playing there? It doesn't want, because that's pattern. Did I do that wrong? No? Let's find out why it's doing that. Do I have something overlaid on something? Let's see, that should be a pattern 2. So let's just if we go into pattern 2, I should be able to just drag that and put it where I want it. getting the crash in every time now. I'm not sure what I've done wrong here. I've done definitely something wrong because here we are on pattern 2. The crash isn't, you know, selected there. It's anomaly time, ladies and gentlemen. We've got pattern 2, which should be the crash, then pattern 1, which should not have a crash, but it's having a crash for some reason. I don't quite understand why there. Let's see if I remove that. No, that's not what I want. I don't understand why we're getting that crash symbol there because, well, for instance, like if I remove that and put the cursor there. Yeah, see, oh, I see. Probably, okay, I understand completely. What's happened is I forgot that you have to press these playheads. It thinks that you're in pattern mode a lot of the time, and we're not in pattern mode, but we're in song mode. So we need to press that playhead at the top that puts all of the tracks into this screen's mode, and now we should be good again. Sorry about that, you guys. Awesome. There we go. So now we'll get that little bit of a drum fill as these sections transition. Exactly. Okay, so just to further this transition again and really let the listener know that we're, changing vibes here from one pattern to another pattern, what we're going to do is create some variations for those other two tracks as well. The first is the chords here. We're going to go ahead and do, let's see, duplicate, and that's put that into a pattern 3 now for us. Fantastic. And what I want is I just want to delete, I want to remove this pattern 1. I want to put this pattern 3 over here, and then that's still keeping us a pattern 2 there. Okay, fantastic. Now this gives me the option, to take out or do a variation on this particular pattern. And what we can do is and it won't affect, the rest of the patterns that we've already programmed. So I can take out some of those notes at the end, and it will just sort of rest for that last measure while the drums are doing their turnaround. So we're basically pausing the chords, giving the drums a little bit more room to kind of do their own thing at this turnaround here. We can sort of do the same thing with some of these other things as well, like these MicroMonsta chord stabs is here. We're going to go ahead and choose duplicate, that it duplicates pattern 1 into another pattern that we can make a variation of. We're going to remove that pattern 1 and slide this pattern 2 down. This is on the MicroMonsta chord stabs. And all I want to do is I just want to remove these very few last ones so that we get a rest at the end of that 16 bar pattern. Whoops, doing that wrong there. We want to go into the select mode. There we go, and delete those. So we get a rest while the drums do their thing and the track sort of transitions into its next section here. I'm going to let the bass play its main part and not do a change. We may need to adjust that, but we'll find out in just a minute. So here's our break in 1, 2. All right, I think we are going to go ahead and pause that bass there as well. So we're just going to grab the pattern 1 for the bass here, and we're going to go duplicate. We're going to go ahead and delete, remove where it was a second ago, and then slide this one over. So we've got, yeah, cool, pattern 2 there. So this is a different pattern, and it won't affect the other patterns we've been writing. Here's that last little bit of the bass there, and I can just delete that from that particular pattern only. So we have basically all 3 of our tracks doing about a 1 bar rest. The drums do a little bit of a fill, and then we go into that second section. I find that often, when we're going to literally go from a 16 bar section to another 16 bar section that has, some variations in it, oftentimes if you take some sounds out on that bar before the transition, it really helps the and then give us some sort of like a roll, like a transition sound, for instance. It really helps the listener know we're moving this track into another section now and to expect something different. Let's hear this in its entirety. I'm going to let it play through all the way, and then we'll let it loop back to the beginning. Yeah, I really like the way that sounds. It helps that transition not be so jarring as we change the patterns. We don't have any fills at the end here. I really like the way that that is sounding. All right, we've been going for just about 2 hours today. I'm not sure how long we're going to make this one, but I would like to try to maybe add something else. I don't really have any ideas to what we would want to add. Let me think. Maybe what we want to do is bring in like a new track today, since we're kind of writing in that workflow, and then maybe we'll add a clap on this track. So if I just play the groove and then maybe search for a clap sample out of one of my sample packs that maybe sounds okay with what we've got created here, we'll bring that clap sound in. Go to my reflective sample pack today, I think. That'll work. Okay, what I want to do, I think, is when that transition happens and we sort of go into that other section, maybe that'd be a nice time to go ahead and add the clap at this time. So what we'll do is just rename this track to clap so that it's obvious what we're working with over here on the left. And maybe we'll just pop a little one in here, and that's just going to be part one, and we can just sort of repeat this out. Cool, and then we can just go in here and put a clap on the 1, 2, and the 1, 4. And then, let's see here. I'm going to want to bring a high pass on this clap, but just really, really subtly, maybe to about 100 hertz, just to get rid of any, possible sub-frequencies that could maybe be hanging out in the bottom end of that clap that we can't maybe hear, because we don't want those conflicting at all with like our bass sound or anything like that. So we're going to go ahead and just make sure we've got that covered. Maybe bring this down in the mix a tiny little bit as well, and maybe add a little tiny bit of our reverb send to that clap. Let's see what happens when we try to get this into the mix now. Go back to song here, and we'll start just about 4 bars before our transition, and that clap will now come in the second section of 16 bars. Yeah, I really like the way that that sort of helps the listener know that we've just entered a new section of the track. Let's bring this down in the mix a little. Yeah, that's sounding really nice. I think what we'll do actually really fast is just EQ this clap. We're going to go to Audio Effects, and we're going to go down to an Audio Unit V3. We're going to go ahead and scroll down until we get to the FabFilter Pro Q3, and we're just going to load it up on that clap. Now I can open that up. We can bring my sort of go-to preset here and take a look at what that clap is actually, frequencies are representing in the mix here. Go ahead and get that playing here. Looking pretty darn good the way it is right now. Just going to tame a couple of these frequencies really gently. All right. it sounds like as it comes into the mix here. In 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think also that maybe our hi-hats and the drums could sort of change in this second pattern. And that might be kind of like a pain to pull off, but let's pull it off. I think maybe the easiest way to do that might be just to take all 4 of these patterns here. If I can can I highlight all 4 of those? Yeah, fantastic. So on the drum track here, I'm just going to highlight all 4. This is a full 16 bars here, and I'm just going to click merge, so that on that track we've now merged this into one, giant pattern. And what we're going to do is I think we're going to erase the hi-hats that are on this track 4 here and create something different for this section, so that, the listener can really easily tell that we're doing something new. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight all of those hi-hats. That's the same kind of thing that clap helped us with. We're going to delete those hi-hats. And there's a couple of options now. I mean, we could bring in like different hi-hat samples. We could bring in like, I don't know, a shaker and a ride, try to mix it up that way. We could just try to create some different rhythms, maybe using the exact same hi-hat sample that we've already got. If we had a huge loop collection at maybe 165 beats per minute, we could start looking for like percussion or drum top loops to bring in. So let's see here. What let's do is maybe add another hi-hat sound to our session. So I'm just going to play the groove. Let's just grab some more. Alright, so here, just really quickly, I pulled 4 other hi-hats out of one of my sample packs. So we've got some more sounds that we can sort of work with there. Let me go ahead and save at this time. And in fact, we're going to go ahead and do the save as. And now I can choose copy session samples and copy user bank samples and copy, purchase samples and all that kind of stuff. And I can embed these samples into our session this way, so that it's going to copy all of the samples from whatever folders they're in. Like here, they're in my, sample pack folders. But doing this is going to copy all of those samples and embed them into into this saved file. So let's go ahead and do that and get all of the samples collected in here. Thanks, David. Okay, and what let's do is see if we can create like a different sounding hi-hat part for this section using these hi-hats rather than our existing hi-hat. First, let's see like which of these hi-hats sounds the most like the one we've been using. Might not even be using that one. Probably hi-hat 11. Those are really similar sounding. So let's see if we can't start by working with something on just putting in like a really simple rhythm with just hi-hat 11 here. Let's see. What we want to do is we want to work with, just this second section for now. This second section of 16 bars. So I'm going to use the loop brace so that it's not going to worry about trying to play the beginning anymore. Alright, and now what we're hearing, let me turn the volume down just a little bit here so I'm not yelling over it quite so loud. Now what we're hearing is, this second section, but there's no hi-hats on this particular pattern. So we're just going to start scrolling in. Here we can see where those hats are. I'm going to turn the volume back up so that I can hear it. Alright. Looks like we've got one extra hi-hat hanging out where it shouldn't be. Let's do this. And, that's cool. Alright. What I want though is that's a downbeat. Yeah, so can we do this? Just to sort of get a little bit of a hi-hat part going in with our new hi-hat samples. Yep, absolutely. And what let's do then is let's go ahead and use the selection tools to select all of those. And let's click, whoops, not that one, but rather duplicate. And then they just need to be moved over one dot. We're going to do that until we fill out the full pattern here. Just keep duplicating these out and moving them where they go. Now, when I'm writing a hat pattern on my own, I would take probably quite a bit more time to create something, probably a little bit more interesting than this. But for the live stream, I don't like to just, pause and then work on hi-hats for 30 minutes, if you get my drift. But that is absolutely something that I will do when working on my own. Just take as much time as I need to get everything really dialed in, as opposed to just going, oh, that sounds good enough, move forward now, just so you guys know, that sometimes it's really good to take the time and get in there and really, program things. Let's see how this is sounding. Okay, what we've got here is I'm soloing the drums so that I can start mixing these hi-hats down a little bit, because they're really loud in the mix. They haven't been, mixed in, or levels haven't been set in any way. We're going to bring all of these hi-hats down by about 1.5 decibels to start with. So let's just do that, get that done. And let's go ahead and save, because we're making quite a bit of adjustments here. This one I think is too loud as well. I'm going to bring that down. All right. These are all too loud still, really. Yeah, quite a bit. So I'm going to bring all of these hi-hats down like maybe 2.5 more decibels. Yeah, now we're starting to get there. And also what we want to do is not have these hi-hats competing for that, dead center space in the stereo field. So maybe I'll take the second hat and maybe we'll pan that like, oh, I don't know, 5 to the left, and maybe take this hat and maybe pan that 5 to the right, just to separate them a tiniest little bit from that dead center spot where the kick and snare drum on bass are residing. And let's also go through and put a high pass, bring the resonance down on each of these hi-hats. A little high pass filter here, high pass. That's also just going to make sure that, we're not having any, potential sub-frequencies hanging out in the bottom of the sound, maybe that we can't hear, that might be conflicting with the bass or something. Hey, what's happening, Tony? And thank you for the reminder. I definitely want to remind everyone about next week's stream. My good friend Trovarsi is going to be stopping by the studio, and we're going to be patching Eurorack together. She's going to bring a small system, and we're going to connect that up with my system and hopefully make some really fun techno for you guys in real time. It's going to be the first time that I've had a guest on a live stream, and I'm both really excited and really nervous about this. So please definitely tune in next Sunday for guest time in the studio with Trovarsi. It should be a blast. All right. Thanks, Tony. Fantastic. We brought these quite a bit down in the mix. I'm going to go ahead and save at this time. I still think we're going to need to tame these hi-hats a bit more. One of the ways that if you have like a hi-hat part like this over your drums, that's using, more than one hi-hat, one of the things we can do is we can actually just mute the ones that we don't want to hear. So now we're only just hearing this first hi-hat here, and we can sort of tame that if we want to. I'm bringing that down quite a bit in the mix, rather. It's a really robust and loud hi-hat. I'm also going to tune it a little bit. I kind of like the way that sounds. So now let's bring in our second hat by unmuting it. I like the way that that one's sounding. I'm going to high pass it just a little bit more. Bring it down in the mix by about a decibel. Maybe 2 decibels. Yeah, now we're getting there. Let's go unmute that third hi-hat. Yeah. Whoops. Gonna pan it a little bit more. Remove a little bit more low frequency content. And duck it back in the mix a little bit so that it's not fighting so much with the kick and the snare. Almost. What happens if I take our main hi-hat and shorten it up? Tighten it up, rather. Ooh. Ooh, come on. All right, that's sounding pretty darn nice. If we add some other sounds like the bass there. All right, that's sounding nice. Getting a lot closer to where I want those hi-hats to be. Basically, I want a lot of rhythm in that high, frequency part of the track, but I don't want there to be so much high frequency content in the track itself that it's overwhelming. And it's really easy to have that when you're, bringing in a lot of different hi-hat sounds and you're bringing in tons of that high frequency content. It's really easy to kind of get carried away with that. Excuse me. Sip of water there. So sometimes you'll need to, really take the time and actually tame those back a bit. What let's do is, now that we've done that, let's sort of hear these, undo. Let's sort of hear these sections back to back, transitioning from, our first hat pattern, which wasn't quite as robust and exciting as the new one, transferring into that new one. We're adding the clap, we're changing the drums, we're changing the chords, and we're removing the chord stabs now. So quite a bit of change between these different sections of our groove that we've created. Let's save one more time, and let's just hear this in its entirety and let it, loop a little bit. Yeah, that's starting to sound pretty darn good. I'm liking that. All right, let's bring the level on those MicroMonsta chords up just the tiniest little bit in the mix and save. Let's try to do one more thing. I think there's room still, like we could add something. Hey, what's happening, Sean? Thanks for tuning in. So far, we've got some drums, we've got some bass, some chords, and then we've got that stab that we recorded out of the MicroMonsta. Then we added that clap. So let's see, what could we do here? Have any of you guys purchased the new KVV31 Synthmaster 2? I've actually had Synthmaster 2 on desktop for like several years, so really excited to see it finally coming to iOS. I haven't had a lot of time to explore the iOS version yet, and this might be a cool time to just drop it in. Maybe see if we can get like a pad or something sustaining, or just, who knows, something cool from that synth, because it's like a new one that I've added. Let's go ahead and see what we can come up with. Let's see. We're going to start by adding a new track, and then we'll just go to, if we go over to the second tab, we can add a plugin to this track. We just save at this time before we go any further in case anything goes sideways. We're going to choose Audio Unit V3, and we're going to try to load up Synthmaster 2 here. If I can find it, Synthmaster 2, boom. Okay, good deal. There we go. And we can see the full version of it if we just use the little close down icon here inside of Beatmaker 3. And let's see here. Let me make sure that I'm actually playing it. And by default, looks like it's already, it's working with the MIDI controller here. So that's cool. And maybe it's a little too loud in the mix. So if we just go to its page on its tab on the mixer, maybe bring it down a little bit. We can maybe just sort of scroll around and see if any of the, sounds maybe sort of gel with us, gel with what we've got going here. Oh boy. Let's see what we got here. Maybe what we want is like some pads type of a sound. And what do we got? So we got a riser here. I do like that riser. I'm kind of looking for more of a pad sound though, or a string maybe, like a. Those are kind of nice. Let's see what that sounds like in the mix. That might be it right there. Kind of like that sound. Yeah, that'll work there for sure. Let's go ahead and go back into the arrangement view. And what I can do is I can just see here, make sure we're in not the select mode, but the right mode here. And we can just take this pattern and make it a 16-bar pattern instead of a 1-bar pattern. We can go ahead and pull the, we can go ahead and pull the end of that pattern out now so that it reaches the full 16 bars. But I can see that it's kind of grayed in, so I'm going to press the play button at the upper right and get all of our tracks back into arrangement mode per se. And let's see, if I just use the loop brace just to select those 16 bars, I believe, let's see here, if I just hit record, let's see if it got what I recorded in. Yeah, it absolutely did. Fantastic. And maybe what we can do, just a really easy stab there. Maybe what we can do is just kind of grab these and go duplicate. Then we can bring these to the downbeat of measure 4. Then we can duplicate these out again. Bring these to the downbeat of measure 8 and duplicate these out again. Bring these to the downbeat of measure 12. I didn't do that quite right. These should be on the downbeat of measure 9, and these should be on the downbeat of measure 13. And that means, let's see here, almost. These should be on 5. Okay, that looks right. So now at the beginning of every 4 bars of that section, we have kind of an extra little stab sound that's coming from Synthmaster 2. And what we might want to do is try to turn that stab into audio if we're happy with it, so that we don't need to save the session with the Synthmaster 2 synthesizer in it. Let's find out if we really like this pattern and what it sounds like in the mix. Whoops, oh, I see the loop brace. Gonna want to maybe bring that back a little bit. Let's just sort of see what happens when our new part comes in. Yeah, I think we want to maybe put an EQ on that sound. So as long as our track is highlighted and I click audio effect, now I can put an audio effect just on that track only. I'd like to put an, AUV3, and it's going to be the Pro Q3 again. So we're just going to scroll down at this time and select the Pro Q3 EQ. Now if I just sort of play it, I can visualize what we're working with here. We can select the Dean's default preset, and it'll start playing in just a couple bars here. There we go. There we go. Ah. Hey, good catch. Just trying to solo that sound so I can really hear what it's doing. Sounds pretty nice. And what we're going to go ahead and do at this time is just render that out so that we can delete the actual Synthmaster 2 plugin from the track. What we're going to do is I've got everything else muted except for that. So I believe if we just go to export and go to audio export, and this is going to be, it's not on bar 1 rather, but it starts on bar 17. So we're going to go bar 17. And we just want this to go for maybe 4 bars. Cool. So master, bar 17 for 4 bars. Wave format, 24 bits. That's all good. Start export. And it's going to tell us that it's put that, in our exports directory. What let's do is let's go ahead and reload that now at this time. What we're going to do is we're going to grab the actual bank itself that has Synthmaster on it. And we're just going to delete that. Goodbye, Synthmaster. And now I'm going to bring in a brand new bank here. And we're going to go track down that sample in the imports directory. So if we're in the imports directory here, the exports directory rather. And here we have our track, YouTube Sunday Mayhem, that we saved at the beginning. I think it's probably this second one. Nope, it's that one there. So we're going to drag that onto a pad now. And we've got, if we go into the sampler tab, we can see that actual sample. And we don't have Synthmaster 2 in the track anymore. It's just that sample. So if we tried to load this, session up in a year or two, maybe like, something happened. Maybe the end of the world is coming, right? And Synthmaster company has gone out of business and their, synthesizer is no longer available on the iPad. If you try to load this session with it, you might have some trouble and, you might not be able to load that session. But since we've taken the time and rendered this to a, piece of audio, we're always going to be able to load this session, provided that the other plugins that we're using in the mix, are still available and all that. Now, I'm not expecting Synthmaster to go out of business, so don't get me wrong here. I'm just saying that if you've ever experienced like trying to load a track from maybe a few years ago so you can make a few changes for a client or for any other reason, and if you've had difficulty loading that track and maybe not been able to load that track into your DAW for whatever reason, you definitely start looking for ways in your workflow to make sure that that kind of thing doesn't happen again. And this is the way that I do that, by embedding my audio into the sessions as audio and not just leaving the instruments there. It also helps to save on CPU a little bit as well. That really depends on how you're using Beatmaker 3. I'm not exactly sure what to call you, but Fur Plus or whatever. Here we've been going for, just about 2.5 hours, and we've had 0 crashes or problems with Beatmaker 3. It's working exactly as you would expect it to work, which is typically how it works on these live streams. If you're new to my channel, I've got a playlist with about 60 different tutorials and live streams with Beatmaker 3, and it doesn't crash for me on those. That's why I'm using the workflow that I'm using rather, and that's why that I'm trying to always teach you guys exactly what I'm doing, because I'm not getting crashes on Beatmaker 3. The folks who are getting crashes on Beatmaker 3 are people who are trying to do just too much in Beatmaker 3, if you ask me. I'm obviously everybody's different. Your iPad may be a little bit different, all those kind of things. iOS versions, what plugins have been updated, what plugins haven't been updated, all that stuff makes a difference. But if we're working with audio and we're working in the app, the way that it's meant to be used, and we're not trying to push a bunch of limits, and we're not trying to load like 6 versions of the Moog Model D in here, you know what I mean, and all that kind of stuff. This is a sample-based workflow that we're using. We're not having any crashes, and everything's working as it's supposed to be. All right. I think we're going to want to get a little bit more volume out of our newly recorded sample. And now we just need to put that back in the mix now that we've, deleted the original track that the MIDI was on. It's now our track G. And so if I just, there we go, just drop that in. And then we make this a 4-bar pattern. All we need to do is just stretch this out to 4 bars, and then repeat that a few times. Now, when I go ahead and drop in our sample on the downbeat here, our sample on the downbeat here, that's going to go ahead and play every 4 bars, just like we had it originally. And we can adjust the volume in the mix, and we can maybe put even a little bit more reverb on that. That's sounding pretty good. Might be a little too loud still. I'm going to put a little more reverb on it. Yeah, nice. I'm going to put a high pass filter on it just to remove any of those super duper low frequencies that may be hanging out there. All right, and I'm really liking the way that this is sounding. We're going to go ahead and save. But we're also going to do if we click on the little sandwich icon for the options, we get a different option when we save. When we press save, it now becomes a save as is available. And here we can choose copy these samples, and this is now going to embed all of the samples that we've recorded into the same folder as our project, including that new sample that we just recorded out of Synthmaster 2. Now, a lot of times on these live streams as well, I'll just kind of pick, the very first sound that sounds even remotely usable, and then we just sort of, move forward with that. But I really want to stress that when I'm actually, writing stuff on my own, that I will often take quite a bit more time with that sort of a thing. Trying to get the camera going again. Sorry, guys. And not always just pick, the very first thing that just sort of, this kind of goes, let's go forward, that's definitely my workflow on these live streams to keep things moving. But something like this, when I'm working on my own, I'll always just take as long as it takes to get every single sound exactly doing what I want it to do and sounding the way that I want it to sound. And I won't be rushing through quite as much as you guys see me doing on these live streams, just so you know as well. So like when you're working at home, don't feel the need to just keep pushing yourself and doing it fast. Fast doesn't really mean anything. What means something at the end of the day is that you've created something that you can be proud of. You know what I mean? And that you've created something that you're vibing with. It's not about the speed. It's not about making something for other people, but we do that a lot on these live streams. And I just want to really hammer that in, that when I'm working alone, I'll take a lot more time and I'll make sure that the sounds are exactly what I want them to be. I find that if you do that, if you just kind of go, oh, well, that works, go, then you'll often maybe get off the rails or not quite end up exactly where you want it to be sonically. So definitely, take the time on your own when you're putting stuff together. Um, Yeah, definitely time to give it a try again. I think that Beatmaker 3 is really one of the most powerful DAWs on iOS. I don't have experience with every single one, but as far as like being able to get in here and chop up samples and mess with the sounds creatively and then sequence those out, I really think that Beatmaker 3 can't be beat here. Okay. Let's see. I don't know that we necessarily need to add anything else. We've got a really great groove started here from scratch today. We started by sampling in a bass sound from the Novation Circuit, and then a little bit later we sampled in like a pad sound from the Audiothingies MicroMonsta, and I really like that sort of workflow as well, being able to add anything hardware in with the session and not just getting your sounds only from like virtual instruments on the iPad, but if you've got like a small desktop synthesizer or something, it's really just simple and easy to get that connected either by a 5-pin MIDI. I've got a video on using a 5-pin MIDI with iPhones and iPads if you're not familiar with that, or if your device doesn't have USB MIDI. We got really lucky today in that the Audiothingies MicroMonsta has USB MIDI, so we were able to plug that directly into the iPad and get Beatmaker 3 controlling and talking to that synthesizer. Yeah. I really think, as a sample heavy workflow kind of, producer, I really think that, getting your samples and your source material from some different, locations is a really great way to really get that full sonic quality. Let's listen to this in its entirety. All right, now that we've got our stab re-put in here, I'll rename this as well. Basically, if I was going to continue this groove, I would sort of do it in the same way that we did, by creating this second part here. I might, copy, one of these patterns out and make another section of 16 bars. I might make a little bit of a variation on the drums, or maybe make a different version of the bass line. Maybe a different version of some of the chord stabs, or maybe add a couple of new chord stabs or a new pad sound. Basically, if I just sort of keep arranging like this and keep these sections into bars, into like 16 bar sections, I find that this is a really smooth and congruent way to put things together. We also could do something like, copy all of these tracks here and move everything over like 17 bars to create a space for like some sort of an intro, any number of things like that. And we can just sort of keep writing. We've been labeling our tracks today and been writing in a multi-track view, not in a one-bank workflow like I normally do. The only thing that we can't do now would be to start assigning a bunch of stuff to macros and then say, like, let's have the drums filter here with a knob, and let's have the bass filter here with a knob. And, that's kind of doable, but you have to select the track before you are able to use its macros. So I wouldn't be able to like filter the drums and also tweak something on the bass track at the same time. And that's why I'm often just writing in that one bank workflow, because from something like this here, if it was in a one bank workflow and not in, these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different banks, if it was just in one bank alone, we could now, start assigning things to those macros and making it so, when you move this knob, now it moves the filter, and when you move this knob, now it removes the kick drum, and suddenly you can kind of jam with the track as it's playing as well. I guess we really don't, need that type of a workflow when we're writing this way, like in the arrangement view, because rather than jamming those things out live with the knobs, we're sort of just taking the time to program those in to the MIDI patterns in the session. But that's definitely, the biggest drawback for me personally in doing it this way. I no longer have, those control over all of those macros that we might like to have control over in real time at the same time. All right, so let's see here. We've been going for, it looks like, about 2 hours and 40 minutes. All right, not bad. I've learned my lesson here with the GoPro, and it only cut out a few times because now I'm sort of trying to remember to touch its screens when it's not showing. So we are going to go ahead and call it today, I think. I definitely want to give you guys a chance if anyone's got any lingering questions at all, whether they be Beatmaker 3 related, iOS music production related in any way, or Eurorack production related, or just music gear related, any questions at all. If you've got one, drop it in the chat. Also, this might be a good time to say goodbye to each other in the chat as we are getting ready to wrap it up. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me on these Sunday live streams. And while we're wrapping it up, I just want to announce one more time as well about next Sunday's live stream, where my good friend Trovarsi is going to stop by. It's going to be the first time we've had a guest on one of these live streams, and she's going to bring a little Eurorack system, and we're going to be patching together, hopefully making something fun and interesting live in real time. I'm super excited about that, so definitely carve out some time next week for that stream. That's going to be a fun one, the first guest in the studio. And I'm really stoked that it's Trovarsi. It's going to be so much fun, you guys. All right. Yeah, I actually watched, Christophs, I actually watched a video with Doug this week where he was demoing some sound banks in Drambo. It's just, that worked, it doesn't really, I can't really get my mind around that GUI so much. But, I never say never, I suppose, because, I am watching those videos. All right. Probably would have never published your first single. Well, that's great to hear. Congratulations on publishing your first single. That is awesome. Round of applause, everyone, for Christophs in the chat. All right. That is fantastic. Hey, what's up, Connor? Thanks for tuning in. I'm kind of trying to wind it up. If anyone has any, questions. But we've been going for about 2 hours and 40 minutes. We created a fun little groove today from scratch. Whoops, hold on a second here, and we'll play that groove one more time on the way out. Let's see here. What did I do wrong? There we go. The visualizers here. All said and done, we're following the EQ curve pretty well. Got a little bit of extra mid-frequency content here from all the chords. So a little bit high in the mids there. But all in all, not too bad, especially for a live stream. What I might do to tame those little bit of like extra mid to frequency content, is just sort of go into the, the chord samples, maybe drop a few more EQs on those, and just kind of carve out that little section of the frequency range, because I'm pretty sure that the extra mids are coming from the chord samples here. Hey, thanks, Jim. I really appreciate that. Hey, thanks, Connor. Thanks very much. All right. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and call it today. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me on these Sunday live streams. And I am going to say one more time, don't forget to tune in next Sunday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, because Trovarsi is going to be here live in the studio and we're going to be patching. I'm hoping to really, kind of do that sort of peek over the shoulder at your classmate thing and maybe learn some stuff from her, because I know she's been doing Eurorack a lot longer than I have. So this is an awesome opportunity, and I'm really, really stoked to be able to do this on a live stream next week. All right. Hey, thanks for tuning in, Leon. Cool deal. All right, so we are going to call it, and until next time, thanks for watching, you guys. Thanks. Tune in next Sunday. Next Sunday.